Before we go into what our investigators should do in their first turn, I would like to go through how the objectives of the game and how we can win this game, which would drive my strategies. So if you look on the page 12, the rule book, it has a section on the victory conditions. There are 3 ways you can win this game. The first one being A, close the gate. So in closing the gate, basically you would have to close all the gates on the board. The other part of this is you must have the number of trophies, the gate trophies. So you keep, after you close the gate, you get the gate token as a trophy. So to win with this close all the gates condition, you must have your gate trophies in hand, numbered equal to or greater than the number of players. So for this example, I have 3 players. To win this game by closing all the gates, when I close the last gate, I must have at least 3 gate tokens in my hand. Because I guess this condition exists because you can gate tokens are fairly useful in getting different things like allies and clues and such. So if you go ahead and spend those gate tokens and you spend too many of them, you would not have enough gate trophies left to win with this condition. The second condition is fairly straightforward, which is you want to seal 6 or more gates. So there would be 6 or more elder sign tokens on the board. Every time you see a gate, you lock that location with an elder sign token. The third one and the final one is to banish the Ancient One. This is if you go into the final battle of the Ancient One, if it awakens and you fight it and defeat it, you would obviously win the game. Now, of the 3 victory conditions, I would say this one is the toughest. Once the Ancient One awakens, it's very, very hard to fight this guy and win. Unless, of course, you start your entire game strategizing to battle the Ancient One and just spend the entire game preparing for that. But that would probably just drag the game itself. So normally I would go for either closing all the gates and actually more commonly sealing the 6 gates. So for the beginning right now, we'll target sealing 6 gates. The order of the phases in this game is in the last page of your rulebook, the back side of it. There are 5 phases that you have to go through. The first one being a phase called the upkeep. So essentially this is sort of a maintenance refresh type of phase where you would look at your investigators and decide based on what's happening on the board what you want to do that turn and relocate your focus points to the skills that you have. During this turn, our character Daryl will also, because he has his retainer card, he would also gain $2 and roll his die to see if he loses the card. The second phase is movement, where obviously you move from the board. Phase 3 is called Arkham Encounter, which is when you would draw the location, the colorful cards we had, the nine decks that we had over at the corner there. Draw your encounters and see what happens to your investigator. If your investigator is in an otherworld, so when inside one of the portals, you would instead have an otherworld encounter after the investigators within Arkham has had their encounter in phase 3. Finally, we go back to the mythos phase again, which is we draw a green card from the mythos deck and resolve that card. So we'll start right now with phase number 1. Alright, phase number 1, upkeep. Okay, not much to do here because in our initial placement of the sliders, I've already strategized what I want to do and placed the sliders at the locations, at the stats that I wanted. So not too much to do right now, but what I will do is go down to Daryl and roll his, give him $2 because of his retainer card. So Daryl gets $2 more. Okay, and then we'll roll the die to see if he actually keeps the retainer card for the rest of the turns. So I'll roll, and we do not want a 1. And we get a 3. Good. So he'll keep his retainer card for now. After our first really brief upkeep phase, we'll now move on to the movement phase. Starting with our first player, Michael McGlenn. Remember, this is the first player token, and it will rotate clockwise after this round. So Michael is over here at Ma's boarding house, and he has a speed of 3 that we've attributed him to in the upkeep phase. 1, 2, and then 3. He'll go ahead and take that clue token and put it in his inventory. Okay, so that's all he's doing. He's gonna sit at the witch's house with his Tommy gun and dynamite. Second player, Daryl Simmons, is up there in the north side of the game board, really high up. Okay, so Daryl, our original plan was for him to go to the curiosity shop and purchase some unique items, or 1 unique item. He's gonna go down here to the unnameable because an extra clue token has popped up here in the last mythos card. All right, so let's do that. He has a speed of 3 initially because we want to be flexible with Daryl, so that's good. We have some flexibility here. And so he's gonna go ahead and spend his 3 movement points. 1, 2, 3, and grab these 2 clue tokens. We'll put it back in his inventory. Okay. Our third player, Gloria, we had wanted her to go up into the Independence Square and grab that clue token. Unfortunately, a portal has opened up there, and the clue token is lost in the other world. So, I don't think Gloria would want to go into Independence Square just yet because she only has 2 clue tokens. So she'll have to, I think, go and grab some more clue tokens. But before we do that, we're gonna exhaust, actually, that's a good idea. So we're gonna exhaust the movement and use her old journal ability and see whether we can get some additional clue tokens. So as part of one of Gloria's movement phase, we'll exhaust one of her movement points to make a lore -1 check. Her lore right now is 4, meaning she would make a check for 3 dice. The check means that you would roll and see whether you get a success. Success being a 5 or a 6. So basically I will have to roll these 3 dice and see whether I get a 5 or a 6. At least 1 5 or at least 1 6. So let's hope we're lucky here because we need some clues. Oh wow, okay, so we are indeed lucky here. We have 2 6s and we only needed 1. So this was a successful lore check, and the old journal rewards us with, if we were success, if you pass, gain 3 tokens and discard this card. So this would go to the bottom of the common items deck, and we'll grab 3 tokens. So we'll put this back to the bottom of the deck here, and then we'll grab 3 clue tokens for Gloria. 1, 2, 3 tokens. So Gloria actually has 5 clue tokens now, and that's a magic number in this game because you can seal a gate after you explored it with 5 clue tokens. Okay, that's good. Good stuff, Gloria. For Gloria's remaining 3 movement points, I now want her to move into this portal here, the Great City of Great Race, and explore that portal so we can seal it. So she will go 1, 2, and 3. Now, we have a monster here, the Gug. And there are 2 schools of thought on whether we need to evade or combat the Gug before we enter the City of Great Race. The first school of thought is, yes, you would need to go in before you enter the portal, fight this monster. But the other school of thought that I'm leaning against is no. The reason being is because we don't actually enter the portal until the Arkham encounter phase. We're still in the movement phase right now. And according to rules, you would only need to evade or combat a monster upon leaving a location. So I'm not actually leaving Independence Square right now during the movement phase. So technically, I'm just hiding somewhere. No, it's a big square. Monster somewhere lurking there, and I'm just in it as well. But I'm not moving away, trying to escape from this location right at this moment. I'm not moving into the gate because that doesn't happen until the next phase, the Arkham encounter phase. So my thinking is no, I do not actually need to evade or combat this Gug before I enter the City of the Great Race portal. So there are two schools of thought, and there was an FAQ I think that was published to explain this, but then later the FAQ said you should evade or combat, but then later there was another clarification which was not as official as an FAQ, but still clarified that you do not need to evade or combat the monster before entering the portal. So there are two schools of thought because there were two answers from, I guess, Fantasy Flight Games, but I'll go with the one where it says we don't have to do that because I don't think it makes sense that we would have to combat or evade this without leaving the location here. So Gloria will now be sitting at Independence Square with the Gug. That ends our movement phase, our second phase movement, and we can now move on to the third phase, Arkham Encounters, starting with our first player, Michael McGlenn, the gangster.